Uttering the immortal line, "What a fucking rotter," in a TV interview, the Sex Pistols brought punk rock to the masses. By late 76, they were touring the country, promoting Anarchy in the UK, which reached a piffling 38. They were banned from most venues, which manager Malcolm McLaren suggested was part of his Scandal, Create Scarcity, Creates Demand master plan.
When I invented the Sex Pistols, I really put them together because they were thieving clothes out of my shop, and at the end of the day I thought I'd sell more trousers. I never thought they'd sell records.
Astute management is all well and good, but without good product, you're heading to palubration.
She ain't no human being. There is no future in England's dreaming. Tell me so, what you want, and tell me so, what you need. There's no future, no future, no future for you.
In June 1977, as royalists tossed their hats in the air and shouted, "Huzzah for Her Majesty, isn't she marvellous? She used to have an 18-inch waist, you know," the Sex Pistols managed no better than number 2 with God Save the Queen. Rod Stewart's I Don't Want to Talk About It was number 1, and many reckoned conspiracy was afoot. The Pistols' sound and image was actually fast becoming as quintessentially English as Her Majesty.
I think with Rotten and that blowing his snotty nose and all the other affectations actually made up for lack of vocal quality, but for another sound that was totally vulnerable, accessible, and very English rock and roll.
I would hope that that would be everything I do, would have that feeling, that drama, that sense of dynamics, yes. Because I think you can get the message across much easier that way. I don't want no wimpy little soul track in the background.
The third of the Sex Pistols' inch-perfect singles came out the following month. It was a nihilist's anthem, a sing-along for those who didn't sing along. It didn't get to number 1, and they didn't care. Pretty Vacant, the second Sex Pistols single to feature Glenn Matlock's replacement Sid Vicious, peaked at 6 in 77. This was the Road to Nowhere show at its very finest, with much sneering, mooning and flicked V signs from the back window of the bus. With its riff the size of the Tower of London, it reached number 6 in a land where most bell-bottom panted youngsters chose to do the hustle on the dance floor, then, unlike now, a very conservative place.
At the end of the day, the most radical ideas musically tend to happen on the dance floor, and the most fashionable people tend to be on that dance floor and be the first to accept them. It has changed the whole musical stage in terms of our pop culture, and the real underground is the place where, when I launched Johnny Rotten, it was an anathema. It was something to stay away from. This very word disco was just dreadful.
The Sex Pistols had developed their sound playing pub gigs in London. Other future punks had also been on the sticky carpeted circuit for some time.
Walking on the beaches, looking at the fishes. Oh shit! Well, there goes the sheriff, man. Looks like I'm gonna be stuck a whole summer. Well, what a bummer.
The Stranglers spent several years playing dives lower than a basement inhabiting Snake's belly, learning what musos referred to as their chops. By Peaches, number 8 in 77, their bass-heavy, doorsy keyboard-led sound, augmented by Hugh Cornwell's lewd lyrics, turned them into stars of the burgeoning punk scene.
We had a few things in common with, quite a lot of things in common with the bands at the time. In fact, a lot of them were coming to see us before they formed their own bands. So we had a lot of things in common. But we were a bit older than them, and by the time they had recording deals and we had recording deals, we'd evolved that much more.
The Stranglers always sat uneasily with the punk crowd. Musically, they were way ahead of most of the Ramalama 1, 2, 3, 4 brigade. They were still controversial, though, penning a song allegedly about a member of the royal family.
500 letters a week asking you what happened. You think, well, hang on, this is the 100th letter I've written now saying exactly the same thing, so it didn't seem much. It was much better just to get it all done in one, and then if anyone wanted to know, then they could have a little book, you know.
I got a new rose, I got a good. Yes, I knew that I always would. I can't stop to mess around. I got a brand new rose in town.
New Rose by The Damned was released in 1976 on Stiff Records. It was the first punk single ever to see the light of day. They were also the first punks to release an album. Record breaking by record releasing wasn't their be-all and end-all though. Messrs Vaney and Sensible, Scabies and James were tighter than Ernie Wise, and they looked bang on the money.
When you work out the individual members, it shouldn't work, but when you get us together, it does work musically and everything in the studio. There's something magical between us. Can't get rid of each other.
Despite some sneering that they were too cartoony to be taken seriously, The Damned walked the earth for many years, clocking up a rather appropriate 77 weeks on the charts, and they produced a classic late-period punk anthem.
Smash it up! 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 Call me back, such a shame. Maybe if my clothes must be to blame.
Smash It Up, a borderline punk parody but no less potent for that, took The Damned into the top 40 in 1979. By now they were developing a keyboard sound, unimaginable in their early days getting changed in the toilets at gigs, which was appropriate really given that guitarist Captain Sensible had once been a toilet cleaner. Soon they'd be vanguard leaders of the goth movement.
I was a toilet cleaner for 6 months at the Fairfield Halls. And I had 14 toilets to clean by 10:30 in the morning. And then I used to go down a piano store and practice my guitar playing.
Our next punk classic featured in the 2002 James Bond movie Die Another Day. Tragically, the band's singer died that same year.
London calling to the faraway towns. Now war is declared and battle come down. London calling to the underworld. Come out of the cupboard, you boys and girls. London calling, now don't look to us. Phony Beatlemania has bitten the dust. London calling, see we ain't got no swing.
Without the Sex Pistols, there'd have been no punk rock, some claim. But no musical movement ever survived without healthy antagonism between competitive peers. And the Sex Pistols' big rivals were The Clash. Directly, belligerently political, they became a big sound rock combo, most markedly on London Calling, number 11 in '79, whilst retaining every ounce of punk attitude.
When I was a youngster, I wanted to be in a group. Right? And I didn't ever learn to write songs. I just wrote songs while I learned to play the guitar. And now I'm not a youngster anymore. I still think it's important to be in a group. And that's rock and roll to me.
The Clash were dedicated to kicking down the establishment doors, almost literally. At gigs they'd open the fire doors and let ticketless fans in, and musically they kept striking oil. Rock the Casbah, written by drummer Topper Hedden, addressed the Middle East political oil crisis, and it barrelled into the top 30 in 1982. With each release, The Clash showed their eagerness to soak up influences from all over the shop, rather than sticking to the punk template. With their politics never far away, The Clash inspired many a confused yet angry youngster to take up metaphorical arms and channel that rage into something of unusual beauty. Featuring vocalist Jello Biafra, the Dead Kennedys were the ultimate US political punks, every track on every album attacking the rank hypocrisy they felt at the heart of the good old USA. Holiday in Cambodia, a punch to the solar plexus of rich college kids reckoning they knew what suffering was all about, was on the 1980 album Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. The Dead Kennedys split in the late 80s, but not before Jello Biafra had run for mayor of San Francisco and not done badly at all. Other politically motivated punks kept their act together. Stiff Little Fingers were the angry punk voice of Belfast in the late 70s, who liked to end their shows with a speeded-up trad tune like The Wild Rover. Their debut album, Inflammable Material, was a minor classic, featuring the likes of Alternative Ulster and Suspect Device, the chorus of which goes, "It's a suspect device," not one for Gareth Gates to cover.
Listening to the records now in terms of production and so on, it is dated, but the songs themselves have lasted, because the bottom line is that there were good songs.
Stiff Little Fingers continue to tread the spit-soaked boards, and they include Bruce Foxton, formerly of The Jam, more of whom later, on bass. They're not the only punks who've decided to stay around.
Open up your eyes. Dear Prudence, see the sunny skies. The wind is low, the birds will sing that you are part of everything. Dear Prudence.
Dear Prudence was originally by the Beatles, name-checked by The Clash on the Call to Arms song 1977. No Elvis, Beatles or Rolling Stones in 1977. In 1983 though, Susie and the Banshees, who played the legendary 100 Club Punk Festival with Sid Vicious on drums, covered it, and reached number 3. They also had a crack at Beatles track Helter Skelter on their debut album. Susie and the Banshees were inventive, both visually and musically, and in their third decade, for many, they remained an oasis of creativity. Four of Susie and the Banshees' 150 weeks on the singles charts were clocked up by Kiss Them For Me, one of the many interesting, slightly sinister-sounding numbers they consistently produced. Add their chart weeks to spin-off project The Creatures, and they come close to making the top 100 acts in terms of chart weeks. Not that the commercial imperative drove them, though.
I think you have to do that for yourself personally rather than in connection with everyone else. For your own, self-pride, self-preservation. I think that's always the strongest motivation behind what we're doing anyway.
After the break, more exploited Barmy Army art school punk pop perfection. Get your skates on.
Come on, that I'm a wild one. Ooh, yeah, I'm a wild one. Gonna break it loose, gonna keep on moving wild, gonna keep on swinging, baby, I'm a real wild child.
Pitched battles have been fought between punk aficionados who believe the movement was created in the UK and those who reckon its germs, as it were, can be found in US music. A truce is generally declared when it comes to acknowledging the contribution of Iggy Pop. Real Wild Child reached number 10 in 1986, 20 years after he began shocking middle America.
The kind of people that you can tell really, really enjoy the music on a visceral way. They feel it in their inside, and they think about it, they live by it. You could use the word religion, and I wouldn't feel uncomfortable, because that's the way I feel about it.
Despite its title, Real Wild Child was pretty much Iggy light. Earlier work he'd recorded with big fan David Bowie was far more in tune with what the world would come to know as that darn punk rock. Lust for Life reached number 26 in 1996 after it featured on the soundtrack for Trainspotting, the movie about flying Scotsmen. It first appeared 20 years earlier as the title track on an Iggy solo album produced by David Bowie. Bowie stood by him in the early 70s when heroin threatened to put the kibosh on the career of the man with, allegedly, the largest penis in rock.
Lyrically, I try to use the music as an evocative force to bring things out of me and into the realm of words that I don't even know I was thinking about. They just come out and there it is, like, oh God, so that's what was on my mind, you know.
Iggy Pop was 10 years ahead of his time, punk's John the Baptist. Our next US Godfathers inspired many a UK combo when they came over in '76 to play a few gigs in London.
24 hours to go. I won't be sedated. Nothing to do, nowhere to go home. I won't be sedated. Just put me in a wheelchair, get me on a plane. Hurry, 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 before I go insane. I can't control my fingers, I can't control my brain. Oh no,
New Yorkers the Ramones, who pretended to be brothers but weren't, and pretended to be dumb but so weren't, trademarked the classic punk shouted intro of 1, 2, 3, 4. I Wanna Be Sedated, from their 1978 album Road to Ruin, was quintessential Ramones, teen angst refracted through a cartoon prism with a chord sequence beautiful in its simplicity.
I don't know what bracket we belong in. I don't know. I mean, when I think of other bands, I think of us and the Sex Pistols. Ramones represent a certain type of music, and most of us, we try to keep it as close as we can to what the Ramones represent, what kids who are fans expect from us.
As well as 1, 2, 3, 4, the Ramones also arguably invented the ripped knee jeans and sneaker look, which, like their work, proved simple but enduring. Other punk-oriented acts took a more art school approach.
Motion in the ocean. His air hose broke. Lots of trouble. Lots of bubble. He was in a jam. Set a giant clam.
Brit pub punks Eddie and the Hot Rods declared Do Anything You Want to Do to be punk rock's manifesto, and plenty took this to be an opportunity to throw caution to the wind when it came to creativity. The B-52s from Athens, Georgia formed in 1976 and threw ladles full of 60s kitsch into the mix. Rock Lobster was from their 1979 debut album.
Our song structures are different, our subject matter for lyrics are really different, and we do what we do, and I think that's what people like, is the fact that we're different.
Yes, punk was a time that allowed trash culture fixated statesiders to come out guns blazing.
Hi, I'm Poison Ivy and I'm the queen of rock and roll.
And I'm Lux Interior, king of rock and roll and singer of the Cramps.
The Cramps formed in Ohio in that hot summer of '76, and like the B-52s, they made a veritable jambalaya of B-movie imagery, punkabilly, rockabilly and silly billy. Bikini Girls with Machine Guns, a typical title, reached the top 40 in 1990 for the reformed band, still fronted by Lux Interior and featuring guitarist Poison Ivy.
We believe that rock and roll is for teenagers anyway, and every time we play, it doesn't matter when it is, it seems like most of the audience is teenagers, so I think that's good, you know.
Other Americans touched by punk took it as an opportunity to get smart, real smart. Talking Heads met at Rhode Island College of Design in the early 70s and moved to New York where they supported the Ramones. David Byrne's combo was smart and inventive, sometimes annoyingly so, and punk gave them a leg up into the big time, giving them permission to reach for the sky, as the Douglas Bader biopic suggested. Once in a lifetime, a harrowing wake-up call reached 14 in 1981. Hardcore punks declared 1976 year zero. Earlier music was to be reviled. Many, though, confessed to a penchant for David Bowie, some more than others. Psychedelic Furs formed in the south of England at the punk peak, though they wore their influences, the Stones, Velvet Underground and especially David Bowie, on their often rather flouncy sleeves. Pretty in Pink was originally released in 1981 and it grazed the top 40, but 5 years later it flirted with the top 20 as the inspiration and title for a John Hughes Brat Pack movie.
We came out with the energy of punk. You know, if it hadn't been for punk, we wouldn't have existed. We wouldn't have had a chance in the marketplace. For one thing, it was so slick and everything like that. So, I mean, we kind of were in our attitude, in the attitude, like you could get up and do it and you didn't have to be the world's greatest musician. You know, and what you were selling was an attitude, you know.
Psychedelic Furs were typical UK art school punks wishing they'd been around in 1967 so they could hang out at Andy Warhol's factory and make films of each other on the toilet. The leader of our next proto-punk art school combo was actually a lecturer in an art college.
I could be a teacher in a classroom full of scholars. I could be the sergeant in a squadron full of wallers. What a waste. What a waste. What a waste. What a waste. Because I chose to play the fool in a six-piece band. First night nerves, every one night stand. I should be glad to be so inclined. What a waste, what a waste. Rock and roll don't mind.
In 1970, Ian Dury was nearly 30 and was teaching painting at Canterbury College of Art. Then he ditched the day job and fronted the soon-to-be legendary pub rockers Kilburn and the High Roads. They duly evolved into Ian Dury and the Blockheads, all music hall lyrics with wry observations, plus deceptively funky backing. The punks loved them, and What a Waste reached number 9 in 78.
I'm disabled, so I meet a lot of gangsters. I meet a lot of violent people because they know that I'm not physically capable of violence, and I'm very glad I'm not. And they tell me things. People like that tell me what they did last night. Oh, I brought my foot down right across his nose, crash. I go, but you're a nutter. He goes, if you wasn't disabled, I'll bash your head in for that. I go, well, what'd you tell me for, man?
Don't be thinking that all the punk rockers and spin-offs were a bunch of clever Trevors.
Cars have been crashed into sea, blood stained in puddles deep, and it was all because the lost were found. I found myself in Dillon Town. Outside the warehouse, somebody's missing. Inside the warehouse, somebody's kissing.
I like punk, I like sham, I got nicked over West Ham, sang the Cockney Rejects. Therein lay Sham 69's appeal. Jimmy Percy's band were the punk terrace favourites, their anthems hell-bent on telling the truth. Outside the Warehouse was from the comeback 1988 album Live and Loud. It didn't chart despite the couplet, outside the warehouse somebody is pissing, inside the warehouse somebody is kissing.
Then, of course, we were young, so all of the storylines or anything that we wrote, of course, that was another misunderstood thing. Sham were like a Charles Dickens, do you understand? We were just interpreting that rags to riches story that was going on in punk, of how there were 20 clubs and there was so much to do and all these kids, they all had these different lifestyles.
For those who preferred punk to be even more to the point, there was no substitute for experience.
It's a lie, I don't believe it. It's all been said before, but you better hold on tightly. This was 1984. The rivers of hypocrisy are rising to full flood. If you survive the water, you'll be drowning in the blood. The blood of lies. The blood of lies.
UK subs formed in that historic winter of 76 and were fronted by former hairdresser Charlie Harper, who looked like he'd been around in 1876. They were loved by the Keep It Simple leather jacket with stenciled band logo, Tartan Bum Flaps Brigade, who stuck to them like glue. Flood of Lies was the title track of their 1983 album. UK subs knew the alphabet, and to prove it, attempted to progress through it with their albums. Debut, Another Kind of Blues, was followed by Brand New Age, and then Crash Course. Last heard of, they were up to R. When the fans weren't reading Proust, they could be found at gigs by our next lot. The Exploited's Mohican fans chanted "Exploited Barmy Army don't fucking mess," though they said it so quickly you could never quite tell. Fronted by ex-squaddy Watty Buchanan, Young Musician of the Year 1973, The Exploited dominated the turn of the 80s UK punk scene. Fuck the USA, other titles include Fuck a Mod, was from 1982's Troops of Tomorrow album. The Exploited were later name-checked by many hardcore stateside punk bands. Perhaps they shared the same language. Meanwhile, 15 years before Tony Hawk Pro Skating 4... Suicidal Tendencies formed in California's Dogtown area, home of revolutionary maddest monkeys skateboarders like Tony Alva and Jay Adams. The band found their skater mates lapped up their hardcore punk sounds, and in 1987 they made the relationship official with the album Possessed to Skate.
When we first started off, people said, yeah, you guys are good, but you'll never do anything looking like that. And I was like, looking like what, And it's like, the way you look, And I goes, we were born ugly, you can't help that.
Suicidal Tendencies later became pretty much a thrash metal combo. Other US hardcore honchos have stuck with their original game plan.
Leave it alone, follow the dream. We couldn't stop the irresistible force. Leave it the same, change with the leaves. Ringing in the sheets, ringing in the old. Leave it alone.
NoFX are among the hardcore of hardcore punk conglomerates who might occasionally dip their toes into the bullshit Nazi commercial whore music biz world, but they quickly throw it back before the metaphorical piranhas get them. Forming in California in 1983, Leave It Alone was from their Punkin' Drublic album from a decade later.
We're not on MTV. We didn't send them our video, we really don't want to be on it. Because all these bands are getting real huge and everything, and it's not really for us. We're just happy where we are.
In those early 90s, cash registers rang out to the sound of US punk album sales.
Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid?
Green Day, the name's a reference to marijuana, formed in California in the early 90s and had their day in the sun with 1994's Dookie album, which featured top 10 punk pop classic Basket Case. Dookie sold 10 million copies, making it one of the top grossing, so to speak, punk albums ever. They were pleasantly spoken young fellas too. Watch that t-shirt though.
It's great, we just write songs like we've always done, and I don't know, never expected anything from it, and just, but we always have the next song to write, so that's the only thing that we can really look forward to, and it's cool, and you get recognized for it.
The early noughties saw a deluge of punk-inspired combos strutting their spunky stuff.
She said what? And I told her that I didn't know. She's so cool that it's sneaking through her window. Everything's better when she's around. Can't wait till the parents go out of town. I fell in love with a girl at the rock show. I don't want to waste my time, become another casualty of society. I'll never fall in line, become another victim of your conformity. Back town, you're gonna bust out on it. Original wankster. Original, yeah. Fell in love with a girl. I fell in love once and I most completely. She's in love with the world. What's
As the Vines proved, not all of everyone's favourite new bands were from the USA. The Hives formed in Sweden in 1993 and nearly a decade later were introduced to the UK public via the compilation album Your New Favourite Band. It was released by former Creation Records boss Alan McGee, an old punk himself, and it combined 60s garage sounds with the vim, venom and might one suggest irony of 70s punk. Main Offender reached number 24 in 2002.
We are a really good band, I really do believe that, but popularity usually doesn't have anything to do with being good, does it?
After the break, punk pop, post-punk pop, pop-punk, post-punk rock, punky pop and pure post-punk. Must we fling this filth at our pop kids? Ejaculated one tabloid after the Sex Pistols brought society to its knees by vomiting into a pot plant at an airport lounge. But punk and new wave weren't the antithesis of pop. Blondie, number one in 1980 with Call Me, had more tunes than a giraffe with a sore throat, and clever words to boot.
As far as writing lyrics go, sometimes I'll have like wordplay ideas and I'll have little themes perhaps or subjects that I think might be interesting, and then I'll make notes on that, but I usually wait for the music.
Debbie Harry and Blondie had begun life gigging with the Ramones, Talking Heads and Richard Hell and the Voidoids. As the 70s became the 80s though, their punk pop required a far larger stage. City Blue reached number 13 in 1979 for Blondie. It was classic melodic yet quote-unquote spunky pop from the Blondie hub of Chris Stein, the band's guitarist, and his partner Debbie Harry, a veritable new wave icon. Many young fellows splashed out on a poster of her. Debbie Harry, with her ice-cold, emoting-free vocal delivery, was a fantasy figure beyond the reach of her audience. Plenty of pop-punk bands made a career out of being hapless when it came to the ladies.
I'm in distress, I need a caress, what do I get? I'm on the make, I just need a break, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get?
The Buzzcocks from Manchester were among the first UK punks, thus giving the lie to the notion that everyone outside of London was wearing jumbo flares and listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd. With Frank Spencer sounding like Pete Shelley on vocals, they were the favourites of those who, in the future paraphrased words of Morrissey, went to clubs, stood on their own, went home and cried and wanted to die. What Do I Get reached number 37 in 78.
When we first started, we were playing the most on commercial music which was possible to play, so we had no aspirations for hitting the big time with what we were doing, as we would have done what everybody else did, which was really boring at the time.
What Do I Get was followed by the Buzzcocks' biggest hit. Somehow they'd now got the girl, though Pete Shelley's delivery always muddied the gender waters, and now they were terrified she'd leave them.
Have a fall in love with someone, have a fall in love with someone, have a fall in love with someone we should have fallen in love with. I can't see much of the future unless we find out who's to blame. What a shame.
Ever Fallen in Love, open brackets, with Someone You Shouldn't Have, close brackets, reached number 12 in 1978. It had the buzzsaw guitar, courtesy of Pete Townsend lookalike Steve Diggle. It had the urgent drumming from John Mayer, who caused another John Mayer to change his name to Johnny Marr, and it had Pete Shelley's lovelorn, plaintive vocals. Not that everyone liked it.
Really, criticism always shows you more about the judge, the critic, than the actual object, because you can just read 2 reviews of a record and you see 2 different people there talking about what turns them on or not.
If I start a commotion, I'll only end up losing you, and that's worse.
Punk pop was referred to by the music papers as perfect pop. This was a misnomer, since it never sold as well as the perfect pop of ABBA or Michael Jackson. Let me explain. Punk pop and mainstream pop just weren't the same.
She wouldn't even let me explain that me and Kevin were just not the same. Oh, my perfect cousin. What I like to do, he doesn't. He's his family's pride and joy, his mother's little gold.
My Perfect Cousin reached number 9 in 1980 for the Undertones from Derry. Still in their teens, they'd taken the Buzzcocks punk pop route. Singer Fergal Sharkey was blessed with looks that no doubt are appreciated on some planet in a far-off galaxy. And the fact the band succeeded in the mainstream charts demonstrates the sublime quality of their songs.
There's honesty there in the records. There is obviously a bit of naive as well, but it's real. And that's why people still like the Undertones. They can hear that.
Our next punk poppers were from south of the border in Ireland, and their first hit was an articulate, if slightly breathless and in-your-face number. Quite appropriate as it turned out. Looking After Number 1 didn't take the Boomtown Rats to number 1, but it managed number 11 in 1977 and made former music journalist Bob Geldof something of a spokesman for the post-Sex Pistols' second wave of punk pop subdivision.
I thought it was a great band, particularly live, and it was 10 years, the band, 1975-1985, which I think seems to be a normal period for a band to exist, unless you are something of mythic status, like the Rolling Stones say, who and still able, through your mere presence, to be able to contribute something to pop, whether it's just simply by who you are and by what you represent, or through your music, or both.
Many critics of punk complained that you couldn't hear the words, and then fumed when they did manage to. Our next Celtic punk pop number was a hard one to decipher. Into the Valley by Dunfermline punk pop rockers The Skids made the top 10 in 1979 and was later used on an advert for cassette tapes as a prime example of an indecipherable lyric. Still, it possessed a riff of the highest order, instantly recognisable and played by virtuoso guitarist Stuart Adamson.
To be quite honest, since I was 13 or 14 years old, I've never wanted to do anything else other than write songs and play them to people directly anyway. That's what I do, and it's something that is just as much a part of my life as a lot of other things. It's the way I live.
The Skids left their mark with a decent number of fair-sized hits as they ploughed their furrow in the field between rock, punk and pop, as did this idle fellow.
Dancing with myself, dancing with myself. When there's nothing to lose and there's nothing to prove, when I'm dancing with myself. If I looked all over the world, and there's every type of girl, but you're empty, I see to pass me by, leave me dancing with myself.
Billy Idol and Generation X played at many of the legendary early doors punk gigs, though their penchant for 60s references and mod imagery put some of the punk purists off. Their final hit was 1981's Dancing With Myself, here done by Billy on his own, which did ever so well in early goth clubs. Soon though, Billy Idol would be off to the USA to become a sneering MTV solo superstar.
The only music that's alive for me is rock and roll. I mean,
The worst thing about punk rock was that it wasn't willing to love its roots. I mean, everybody I met in punk rock loved the New York Dolls. They loved the MC5. They loved so many American bands, yet they all said how much they hated America, whereas I was never willing to say that.
Dancing with myself, in case you hadn't guessed, is a euphemism for masturbating. Staying with that theme, a big hand for our next punk poppers.
You got me turning up and turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning right, I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so.
The Vapors were from Woking like the Jam, and Turning Japanese was the proto-mulleted Three Pieces One Big Hit, number 3 in 1980. Like Dancing with Myself, the song was all about masturbation. By rights then, the song should have been pulled off the radio playlists, and the band should have received a slap on the wrist. And many fans believed they were seeing a spin-off band featuring bassist Bruce Foxton, whom Vapors singer Dave Fenton did rather resemble, as we shall see. The Jam distanced themselves sartorially from the punk movement and were mocked by The Clash for wearing suits. They unquestionably combined 60s pop with new wave ants in pants venom though, and in Paul Weller possessed a grumpy genius. 1982's Town Called Malice, which has some of modern music's finest observational couplets, was their third number one. When post-punk first came along at the back end of the 70s, many dismissed it as being too bleak. How they came to that conclusion is anyone's guess. It's queer to think that Joy Division, the ultimate post-punk band, supported fellow Mancunians, the cheeky chappy old bugger it she's buggered off again, Buzzcocks. Joy Division were into austerity, existential angst, and French literature in translation. Love Will Tear Us Apart reached number 13 in 1980, shortly after singer Ian Curtis hanged himself. New Order formed out of the ashes.
I am quite enthusiastic. I enjoy more or less every aspect of what I do, apart from recording, because it takes so long. And you know, you sort of lose sight of what you're doing. But like, to me, the best part of being in a group is being able to travel, just being appreciated for what you do.
Most post-punk successors had been slightly too young for punk itself. One icon of the first wave, though, effortlessly surfed in on the next one.
This is not a love song. Happy to have, not to have not. Big business is very wise. Crossing over into enterprise. This is not a love song.
Johnny Rotten quit the Sex Pistols in the USA just as everything was going gonzo. Sid Vicious killed his girlfriend Nancy Spungen and then himself. A movie was being made that made Malcolm McLaren out to be a Svengali figure and the band members puppets. Rotten, now back to Leiden, formed Public Image Limited, a far more experimental outfit. This Is Not a Love Song reached number 5 in 83.
These are hope for the world, these little gems I'm offering you. Enjoy them. Or throw them away. That's up to you. I know they're valid, and that's all that matters.
Public Image Limited, let's just call them PIL, were never the most prolific of bands. When John Lydon channeled that anger, though, up they'd soar.
I could be wrong, I could be right. I could be black, I could be white. I could be right, I could be wrong. I could be black, I could be white. They put a hot wire to my head 'cause of the things I didn't say and made these feelings go away. Model citizen in every way.
Rise, with its splendid anger as an energy chant and its venomous I could be right, I could be wrong refrain, reached number 11 in 1986. Though Lydon still resembled Johnny Rotten, both physically and in many of his vocal mannerisms, he was eager to point out that he was forever moving, like a rolling stone gathering no moss.
Of course I'm not a parody, and I'll never be a cliche, I couldn't possibly be. Not interested in that. If I wanted to be that, I could have taken the easy road a long time ago, and no doubt been very successful at it, but I'm just not interested in that. I don't do things for money.
So, to clarify, punk began in London, Manchester, New York and Detroit, and was all about politics, life on the streets, existential issues and the inability to retain a girlfriend. It was smart, it was dumb, it was harsh, it was liltingly melodic. It was all this and more, and continues to be so. We end with a song from 1979, long after punk, according to the snooty metropolitan elitists, had died a death. But in the sticks, youth was still bored, SH1T-less. And punk was the funnel through which it could be poured. With arguably the ultimate punk anthem, it's the members and sound of the suburbs.
This is the